G'day everyone, Daz here, and if you haven't subscribed already, please do so. Trying to get to 300 by the end of the year, and I need your help in doing so. I'm really close to the goal, so if you haven't already, it would really help me out. Also, one other bit of housekeeping before I get started. I did a video during the week on me reacting to hot takes, and that has flopped unbelievably, so if you haven't checked that out, please do so. I don't think I'll do another hot takes video, but if a few more people can watch it, that'd be fantastic. So two things have happened this week that inspired me to make this video. The first one is Brad Shepard retiring, and I'm a massive fan of Brad Shepard. A good friend of mine, Jake Smithy, is a massive fan of Brad Shepard, and him and I and another footballing friend of mine were talking about how the All-Australian team is abhorrent and a joke when it comes to players being picked out of positions. Now, the players that earn the All-Australian jumpers, we all agree, are players that are fantastic players and that have had fantastic seasons, and it's up to the people that are picking the team to get it right, rather than the players copping hate for being in it. I feel like those two are distinct things. So today's video is going to be me naming my Daz All-Underrated Team, and I feel like that the best player of these players next year might win the Brad Shepard medal. I might name it after the great man, because he was a fantastic player with fantastic footy IQ, and I've met a few people that have met Brad. I didn't have the pleasure, and they said that he was a fantastic bloke as well. So we could make this a thing. If you guys enjoy the video, click that like button, comment below. The Brad Shepard medal, we might make it a thing. So what makes a player underrated before we start with the team? Now, I believe that a player is underrated when they are a lot better than the amount of time that they get talked about. Now, talked about could be by fans, but a lot of players are in this team because of how little they're talked about by the media. Now, that might be when they're playing the game and it's commentators. It might be on footy shows when their team gets talked about, or good players in their team get talked about and they don't get mentions at all. And the full forward in this team is Vic Bias. Not by me, I'm going to be calling it out. So please stick around for that, because it's going to be fantastic, because I might actually go off because it's not good enough what's happening with the full forward of this team. But like with every team, we are going to begin with the full back line, work our way down, and yes, I even have a bench. So I'm going to name my two pockets and then my full back, so the spine will be the last of all the lines that are named. But I'm going to get to the first back pocket, and I feel like this is going to be a guy that fans of this team are going to go, he absolutely deserves to be here. I feel like opposition fans will go, every time we play this team, he seems to play well. And David King just didn't know who he was when he won the runner-up in the best and fairest for the second time in 4 years. He stops opponents, he finds the ball, he was top 10 at Hawthorn for disposals for the season. He was top 5 in one-on-one contests won. He has fantastic kicking efficiency, and it was one of the best jumper handovers in modern Hawthorn history with the number 15, and that is Blake Hardwick. This man is a gun and doesn't get talked about at all, especially not with the media. Now, Jason Dunstall is the only one that talks about him. Of course, he's had more to do with Hawthorn than anyone else. But even when Hawthorn weren't going that well, he just didn't get beaten. You look at some games, he played really well against Essendon in round 1, but he had games where he was getting 20, 25 plus disposals, and if anyone thought, oh, he's just going to be another one of these players that sits in the back pocket, doesn't play on anyone, watch the Brisbane and Bulldogs games when he absolutely blanketed Lincoln McCarthy, and I think he didn't lose a one-on-one contest at all in the game against the Dogs. This man can do both. He's a versatile back pocket and needs to be talked about. So the other back pocket, we are going to Western Australia, and West Coast have had a really good defense for a long time. Jeremy Mcgovern is a fantastic player. Tom Barrass has had some nightmare moments one-on-one, but is still a very good defender. And they've had some up-and-comers come through as well. And even in all that, this bloke doesn't get talked about enough, even though he's deceptively quick, has very good hands, and his footy IQ is better than I think even a lot of West Coast defenders now, and that's Josh Rotham. I would not blame you if you walked down the street and wouldn't recognise him, and to be honest, I don't think I would either, but that's a visual impairment problem on my part. Please, next time you watch a West Coast game, just watch him. He'll get to the front of every contest, he judges himself in the air beautifully, he's a fantastic mark. Does he have some limitations when it comes to kicking? Potentially, but he knows his limitations anyway, can beat his opponent, find the footy, and again, if you watch West Coast, no one's talking about defenders if it's not Mcgovern and Barrass, but he's a very good player. I really like him, so Josh Rotham's going to be my second back pocket. And my full back in this team is a best and fairest winner who I think everyone got a bit bored of in 2021. Now, I think he did get beaten in a few more contests, but the midfield pressure that his team was putting on was abysmal, especially in the back half of the year. But in one-on-one contests, his speed, his marking ability, his ability to use the footy are all better than I think he gets credit for, and I'm a big fan. Sam Collins is going to be the fullback in this side. I don't think Freo regret letting him go because they've got some key defensive depth, even though they're all injured, but Gold Coast can plug him in there, and especially with Rory Thompson being injured all the time. He's been a fantastic servant of the Suns so far, and I have no reason to doubt why he wouldn't have a fantastic 2022. He can stop an opponent, and he does everything you want a modern fullback to do, and he's one of two Gold Coast players in this side that just don't get talked about, and I think it's because they're at Gold Coast. This guy played more midfield minutes this year. So, does he really qualify as a halfback flanker? I think he does, because even as a midfielder, he plays like a halfback. Usually at the back of the stoppage, gets his handball receives, his meters gained, and he's fantastic. And he needs to stop being called the steak knives right now, because Jack Crisp is an amazing player, won the Collingwood Best and Fairest, and still, every time he plays, all commentators say is what an underrated player Jack Crisp is. If you gave him his due credit, he'd be properly rated. So if you don't want to, I will. Jack Crisp is a star, and anyone that says otherwise does not watch enough football. This next guy goes under the radar, and I think it's because the other guys in his position have got more accolades. Caleb Daniels won a Best and Fairest, Jason Johannesson has won a Norm Smith medal, and Bailey Dale has been an All-Australian. But Bailey Williams is the most versatile Bulldogs defender that they have. He is a good kick with good speed, but what he does that Daniel, Johannesson, and Dale don't really do is beat his opponent one-on-one. Against West Coast, he won crucial one-on-one contests that won the game, and if anyone commentates him other than Luke Darcy, he doesn't get the same sort of mentions that the other three do. Sure, all four of them are fantastic kicks of the football, but if you're a defender, you need to be able to beat your opponent as well. Not everything about a defender is in Supercoach, and I think it's why a lot of younger people also can underrate Bailey Williams. This man is a gun, don't get it wrong, and he's one of those players that allows other people in the Bulldogs' defence to play their best. So Bailey Williams, you don't get the credit you deserved on the media, but you're a part of Daz's all-underrated team, so that's surely something. Hard to be a captain and go under the radar, but that's what this man does. Now, being remembered for one unfortunate incident is something that doesn't really sit fantastically with me. We've all made mistakes in our life, and fortunately, most of us didn't have 40,000 people in the crowd watching it filmed and replayed over and over again, but surely we have to move on from 7 years ago and get to a place where we can appreciate that this man is a fantastic centre-half back, and that's Tom Jonas. I know non-Port Adelaide fans might scoff at this, but every time I watch Port Adelaide play, Tommy Jonas always holds down the fort really well, which is something you want a good leader to do and a good centre-half back to do. And I know there are flashier centre-half backs in the game, but I'm a big fan of Tommy Jonas. Don't think he gets the credit he deserves, and that is why he's the centre-half back of my all-underrated team. I've said it before and I'll say it again, players can be underrated for different reasons. Now, my first wingman is actually me who underrated them, so this is a middle finger to myself. Now, my friend Jake Smith, who I've mentioned a couple of times already in the video, at the end of 2019 said, Hawthorn need to go get this guy, he is incredible and on the market. And I sort of went, really? And he went, I know his form has been okay-ish, but he is going to explode. He has an electric speed and a fantastic kick of the footy. We need to go get him. Now, he stayed at the club that he was at. In 2021, he had a breakout year, but this is the middle finger to me for not giving this guy the credit and jumping on the bandwagon too late, and that's Carl Amon. Should have been an All-Australian wingman with Paul Seedsman. It's a disgrace that he wasn't, so if the All-Australian team are going to underrate him, I certainly won't, and I'm sure Smithy will comment under this video saying, finally, Dazzling's on board the bandwagon. I absolutely am. So last year on the Raw, after every round, I would write up my underrated player from each team and underlie why I think they went under the radar for that weekend and celebrate good performances that didn't go as noticed by the media. And a man that featured 5 times in that needs to be in the all-underrated team. Welcome Richmond's next captain, hopefully, Jack Graham. Captain South Australia as a teenager, is beautiful around goal, is a good set shot kick as well, and is one of the hardest tacklers in the league. This man is a genuine star, and I don't see why Richmond would go in another direction when it comes to their captaincy. And although he might be stiff to miss out on the captaincy in this side, but that captaincy spot is filled a bit later on. I don't think AFL midfields really go the ruck rover centre structure more than they did in the 80s and the 90s. So I'm going to go with the most underrated midfielder in the competition here. My sentiment is going to be the most underrated player in the game right now. So I really appreciate that this man is here, and the fact that he is always put behind a teammate of his when he has shown that he is as good or better in certain other situations is not okay with me. But the most underrated player in the game right now is Luke Parker. This man's finished second in a Brownlow, just won another best and fairest, does his thing every week, ultra consistent, tackles better than I think he gets credit for, hits the scoreboard, is a clearance machine, likes the contested and uncontested ball, and is a born leader. Why isn't he spoken about more than he already is? Is it because he's non-Victorian? Is it because people aren't watching Sydney enough? I don't know the answer to that, but it's disgusting that he's not talked about more. Luke Parker is a superstar and will go down as one of the modern greats for Sydney. Let's go to the half-forward flank and my favourite young player in the competition. He came into a bad side, hasn't lost his place in the side yet, and keeps getting better and better and better. As much as I've lamented Adelaide's slow midfield, one of the pieces that really helps with that is Harry Schonberg. He needs to play more midfield time. I think he's going to struggle to do that if Matt Crouch is fully fit, but while he's not, get him in there and develop him as a midfielder straight away. He's a young bull who is a better kick than he gets credit for, knows his way around the sticks, and is hard as nails. I know Adelaide aren't the most watchable team at the moment, but this kid definitely is. Jack Gunston for the Hawks was able to be the third tall when he came under Alistair Clarkson's system for a bit. I don't think this guy has really been allowed to be the third tall, even though he could absolutely be it. But Tim Membry earns a spot on a half-forward flank because I can have him up the ground, deep in the square. He uses the ball well. He can kick a goal or two. He's a beautiful set shot. He's got really good hands, and for a guy his size, his work below his knees is fantastic. So I'm proud to have Tim Membry on the half-forward flank. St Kilda have got a few underrated players in their side, but he leads the pack for me. Playing in a bad team can be a curse, but my centre half forward tripled his goals output in 2021, and it was only one game that he seemed to get credit for, but he had a really consistent year. The big Suva himself, Nick Larkey, is the centre half forward of my dad's underrated side, and I'm so proud to have him here. He is so good on the lead. I think if we had a camera on him, trained on him throughout the entire game, I think a lot of fans would be blown away at his work rate. He gets to the front of every contest. I think his hands have improved greatly, and I think he's a dead eye in front of goal as well. North are on to a winner, and Callum Coleman-Jones is hopefully going to help with that because he's been the number one man, and he's too young to be a number one man. But the quicker his development comes, he's the number one man for the rest of his career, and I think he's going to grab it with both hands. He's a fantastic talent, Nick Larkey. You don't need to be a human highlight reel to be one of the best small forwards of the modern generation. He doesn't get a mention because he's not the human highlight reel, but for consistency, I'll have Luke Breust any day of the week. Sure, his pressure right now isn't what it used to be, but he, Cyril and Poppy were the kings of defensive pressure, and honestly, Punky's set shot goal kicking post 2014 has been better than almost any small forward in the game. He gets to the front of every stoppage, and on the run with his snaps around the body, there's not many better in the game than Punky. Sure, he isn't as quick as a Charlie Cameron or a Tom Papley, but he's every bit as good. He's got that experience behind him, and let's put a bit more respect on Punky's name before he retires, and all of these media people claim that he's a superstar. How about start doing it now, because he has been for a while. I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of long sleeves, but if there's one man in the competition who might convert me from that, it's Brad Close. Yes, Brad Close is in this side, and fingers crossed Geelong fans are going, finally some respect on this guy. He is a tackling machine, and is the reason Tom Atkins went to a halfback flank, who was already a good pressure forward. Now, it's worked for Tommy Atkins, because he's gone to the halfback flank, and he's looked really solid down there. But Close's ability to get up the ground and back for all four quarters, his endurance is fantastic. He's crafty around the goals, and he's one of the more unselfish small forwards I've seen. I may not be a big fan of the long sleeves, but I'm a big fan of Brad Close, and he is going to be my second forward pocket. Alright, here it is. The disgusting amount of Vic bias that's gone into this man becoming underrated. Now, he is the only player in this team that is not underrated when he plays. I know that sounds weird. But he is an incredibly underrated player when it comes to the shows that happen during the week. because his brother plays for a Victorian team and gets all the love. This man plays for a non-Victorian team and gets none, but he's better than his brother. So, for all the media outlets that do not want to give Ben King all of the credit in the world for being a top 10 key forward in the league, I will. Ben King is a superstar and will happily sit as a middle finger in my full forward. When a best and fairest winner misses an entire year, and he's probably one of the top 5 most missed players throughout the league last year, I think everyone stood up and took notice of how big the hole was when he got injured. The problem is no one gave him his dues when he was fully fit. But Jared Witz is a very good ruckman. He's probably one of the best at taking the ball out of the air, and although some have criticised his palm work, I really don't see that it's a massive deal. He doesn't do a lot of hit-outs to disadvantage, and when it comes to bullying other ruckmen, I feel like he can do it as consistently as some others. Fingers crossed he's back in business ASAP. Like I said, he is a best and fairest winner, so let's put some respect on his name. Jared Witz is my ruckman. First midfielder, and this guy is purely underrated because everyone else in the midfield of the team that he's played for has demanded, probably unfairly, more headlines than he does. But he deserves to be called a superstar like the rest of them. Mitch Duncan is a bloody star. He was the sub in the 2011 Grand Final, and it kind of feels like he's been around for not that long, but he's actually been ultra consistent for a long period of time. But it actually made me go back, look at some of his stats, and kick in again that he has been ultra consistent A-grade midfielder for 10 years, yet it's all about Selwood and Dangerfield. And now in modern times, Cam Guthrie as well. Now, those players have certainly earned the right to be talked about, but to neglect a guy like Mitch Duncan when it comes to the media, goodness gracious me, that's not okay. So Mitchy Duncan is in my all-underrated team. I'm not a fan of fat-shaming guys, and I will never do that because I am bigger than every AFL footballer out there. But when this guy finally shed what the media were calling his puppy fat, he apparently became a good footballer. He was a good footballer beforehand. He's just looking as fit as he's ever been, and he's on an upward trajectory. But my final midfielder for my underrated team is Jacob Hopper. Sure, Josh Kelly is the Rolls Royce, Tim Taranto is best and fairest winner, and Toby Green gets suspended every 4th week. But Jacob Hopper's the kind of guy that doesn't leave the whiteboard, and they're ultra important to their teams. I think the Giants are going the right way to win a flag down the line, and if they do, Jacob Hopper is going to play a very big part in it. Do not sleep on this man. I love him, and he's my final midfielder. So for the bench, I've gone a defender, a midfielder, a ruckman, and a forward, because I think that's how it should be when it comes to selecting these types of teams that don't play anyone. So the bench, I'll name all 4 of them, give a reason for all of them, and then I'm going to let you guys go. But Liam Baker is my defender, Jack Redden is my midfielder, Toby Nankervis is my ruckman, and Oscar Allen is my forward. Now, Liam Baker is one of those Swiss Army guys who's tough as nails, and although he might not be the best kick, I'm more than happy to have him in my side, even if it is to rough a few blokes up. Jack Redden, I think, has copped too much hate since crossing over to West Coast. He's been a fine midfielder, and I think that the overwhelming Twitter responses to any highlights of his that come up are truly unfair, so I'm going to give him a bit of love here. Toby Nankervis is a very big reason on why Richmond are a threat again next year, and he's one of the more valuable players that they've got on their list. And Oscar Allen is one of those guys that whenever he hits top form, he seems to get injured, and injured blokes don't get spoken about enough, but I'm a big fan, so I want to put him in there as well. So there it is, guys. That is the team. What do you think? Who did I leave out? Who is criminally sitting on the emergency list for you? Who do you think doesn't deserve to be there? I'm 100% happy to take on those comments as well. Let me know below. If you like the video, leave it a like. I'm not going to do anything next week, as in weekdays, because it's my last day of work before I go on Christmas holidays. So I'll wait until next weekend. Please subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. We're so close to that 300 mark. Have a fantastic weekend. I hope you're all well. That is the team. I will see you later. Goodbye.